Hey everybody, welcome back to the Blue Ribbon Lounge podcast.
Welcome back to the lounge here on the precipice of the Mississippi.
Oh yeah, it's up to our knees over here in the Blue Ribbon Lounge.
Yeah, I
guess water's pouring in.
I just drove across and didn't even look to see if it was flooded.
It is flooded. I know River Drive is closed. I don't know how bad it's flooded. I know it's probably not as bad as 2019.
No, probably not. I don't know. I'm going to go downtown later. I guess there's some kind of comic or some kind of convention going on.
Yeah, the dude who, I think the guy who has the highest score, the high world record for Rampage, and also the guy who created Rampage are there.
Oh, okay.
For sure the guy who created it. He was on Dave and Darren on the radio, and it was pretty interesting because he was, they were talking about how, like, you know, one game comes out and then all the other places have to, like, emulate it to have their kind. And Rampage was kind of like the first of its kind.
That's the one with the monsters, right, where you crush the buildings?
Yeah, and it was like, the guy was talking about it, and he was like, you can crush the buildings, you can eat the people, you can fight each other.
Yeah.
There's like a spot where if you are George, or the King Kong type character, if you grab a certain lady, you become invincible for a minute, or maybe they won't attack you for a minute.
Okay.
Kind of like a nod to
King Kong.
King Kong, yeah. And he said that they, like, every window there's something in
that you can smash.
Yeah. I thought that was pretty cool. I like kind of innovative games like that.
Yeah. I always think on that game, you punch the windows when you go up, then you get on the roof and just jump on it a bunch. Yeah.
But they're having all sorts of tournaments down there. There's like most people eaten they're having tournaments of the game. Most people eaten, most buildings smashed.
Okay.
Things like that. And I'm like, I love video games.
Yeah.
I'm just not that into them like that. You know what I mean?
Oh, to like get a high score.
Get a high score, or like research a bunch about them, or I never really got hooked on a game.
Yeah, no, I get that. Video games, it's kind of like football for me. I'm like, I'll watch it, it's cool, but I don't know the names of the guys.
Right.
I don't know where they got traded from or what high school they came from.
Oh, actually, now that you say that, I feel like I'm a nerd for hockey because I know a lot of that stuff.
You know that?
Yeah.
You know, like their college team and stuff like that?
Maybe not like that deep, but...
Yeah, well, that's hockey. I don't know there's drafts and stuff
there's
like that.
Drafts, and they get them from certain colleges, and it's exactly like football except better. But
I just thought Canadians came down with sticks and they're like, "Hey, you want to run
try
around on this ice?"
Yeah, and then we just beat them up every time.
Yeah, you're like, "You're too good." Beat them up.
But speaking of video games, shout out to, was it the last episode, Video's Effects on the Brain?
Yeah,
check that one out. That was a good one. But thanks for coming, everybody. All you time traveling beauties, we're so glad you're here.
Down in the lounge with us.
Yeah, we're here now. You're here then. But
Later.
Somehow we make it work.
Yeah, we never miss each other
through this space and time.
Yes.
And we got a crazy episode for you guys. It's going to start out not so bad, a little weird, but huge content warning on this one, I think.
Yeah, probably not for kids.
Yeah. And you do you, though, you know.
Yeah, and if you want to look deeper into it, you can.
Yeah, it was hard doing the research for this because, you know, you kind of read the same stuff over and over again, and there's just like a lot of bad stuff. And we've talked about some weird stuff before. I don't know why this got to me so bad.
I think because there were kids involved.
Yeah, I think so too. And like just the sheer amount of like lack of freedom a lot of these people had.
Yeah, but this one was weird because I feel like because it's kind of a gruesome one, and it's
very gruesome.
And as far as cults go, they're not like this.
Yeah,
because like
this dude makes Dahmer look like not such a bad guy. I feel like
right,
and maybe it's that.
And this commercial break is brought to you by The Fridge. The mini fridge. If you forget to turn it off, it will ruin your podcast. Pod dog.
But maybe it's because, Dahmer has been so widely told, and this is a Canadian group, so maybe that's, it hasn't been told a million times. There's not a TV show about it.
There's a movie about it, though.
Oh, really? Is it
Yeah.
a documentary or a movie?
No, it's a movie.
Dramatic reenactment?
Yeah, and I was showing it to the old lady last night, and I was like, there's a whole character that's made up to be able to, show the audience through eyes,
Yeah.
without like having to have a narrator. You just
Yeah.
have a character that's new to it, so everything has to be explained to the character, like you're explaining it to the audience.
Yeah.
But then it kind of it takes liberties with the whole story, and that's kind of what I found when I was going through the research. It's like, yeah, the bullet points are all the same, but to connect the dots is always different.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah, because you really can't trust their memories coming out of there, even though there were some people that escaped and, recorded it. That's a lot of trauma to have lived through to be able to get everything accurate.
yeah, but I was just talking about the people presenting the story,
Oh, okay.
because if you because we do this, we research, and you want to tell a certain kind of narrative.
Yeah, and you also have to make it a little bit engaging.
Yeah,
we don't do that
interesting.
so much, but
Oh, well, we try. But just his schooling, they say he only had an 8th grade education, and a lot of people will say that he dropped out,
yeah.
or that his dad was very militant and then pulled his kids out of school because they had to go door to door and beg for donations for the White Berets.
Yeah, and even with the dropout, it could have been I heard anywhere from getting in trouble with the law, not having a good home life to where he just couldn't make it to school.
Yeah.
That school was too easy for him. That he was real smart.
Yeah.
Even with that one fact, there's so many different explanations that we kind of found out about it.
Yeah, well, the logical one that I would think is it was rural Canada in the 50s or 40s, 50s, when he was born. So maybe in the 50s he's going to school. But it was a mining town where they mined asbestos.
Yeah.
And they were saying that the school only went up to 8th grade because then high school, you'd have to go to a bigger city to go to high school, which sounds crazy now because every city has a high school in it. But it'd be I don't know, if you lived in Wilton, but you had to come into Davenport to go to high school.
Yeah.
Well, back then they didn't have buses, and it's in the middle of nowhere, Canada, so you can get all the way up through junior high, but if you want high school, you got to go to the big city.
Yeah.
Yeah, but just saying that he only has an 8th grade education, and you put your today blinders on it, you're like, oh, he must have dropped out, or he was too smart and thought, you put your own spin on it.
Yeah, and who are we talking about? What are we talking about, Dave? Tell the people.
Oh, yeah. We're talking about the Anthill kids.
Yes, and we're talking about the way I read it is Roch Thoreau. But what were you saying you think his name is?
It was Roch Terrio.
That's how it sounded. Everybody else was saying it.
Yeah, because everybody'd be like Roch, and then
and that's one reason why I like to do probably the majority of my research on YouTube, because you can get a lot of those names, especially when you're doing something that's foreign.
Yeah, exactly.
But that's just me.
Because this guy, his parents were French.
Yes, French Canadian.
Yeah, in Canada, they're not so much of a melting pot, but they celebrate their differences. Mm-hmm. And in Quebec, they're French Canadian, but they celebrate their diversity by being totally French, and they don't even speak English, a lot of them.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and they're allowed to have everything in French, and the government of Canada isn't no, everything's got to be the metric system, uniform across the board. They're no, have your French thing. And back in the day, it was a lot of discrimination because they didn't speak English, and we speak English, and they want to be French, but we're Canadian, Yeah. So that he was that's why there's a bunch of super Canadian names or French names, and all the people spoke French except Roch, in his
Cult.
clan. Yeah.
He was said to have not walked until he was 3 and not talked until he was 7. And I kind of wish I would have kind of looked up why sometimes people do that. And I feel like a lot of times, just from what little I remember from it passing through other things I've researched, it's a lot of like kids that do that end up seeming a little gifted, but there is some sort of maybe not brain damage, but some sort of mental illness.
Yeah, or like preemie kind of stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you didn't fully develop in the womb.
Yeah, what are you trying to say, Dave?
What?
I was 3 months early.
Oh, 3 months?
Yeah.
For real?
For real. Yeah.
Damn.
I was in like an incubator and stuff. I was fitting the palm of your hand, I guess.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well, you turned out all right. So
Maybe.
far. Yeah. Next year we'll be doing it from the Blue Ribbon Commune.
I mean, that's a real thing. I've always wanted to start a group of people that I can help, and that always just ends up being a cult.
Yeah, like-minded people out in the woods. That's all.
Yeah. I have since given up that dream, and
yeah,
I spend more time doing podcast stuff.
All right, but Roch was a very charismatic kid. It read shit tons of books.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it came from a very strict religious household because it was like they're called the White Berets, but it's like a section of Christianity that like is devout to like Saint Christopher or something like that. But they wear these white berets when they go around door to door to ask for money. So then they end up just being called the White Berets.
That's kind of like the Mormons when they come around. They're always wearing like suits and ties.
Yeah, they have like a uniform, quote unquote. Yeah, but they would march in like military fashion to each door to ask for money, and this was when Roch was like 7.
That's intimidating.
Yeah, and you think like, okay, it's just what people do, but when you go to school and you get bullied for it, it kind of sucks. But then every Sunday your dad makes you have to go out there and you're just feeling humiliated the whole time.
Yeah. Then you knock on your bully's door and he shows up and
yeah, or he just stares at you and you just know that on Monday you're gonna get it.
Yeah. But so he was born May 16th, 1947. Eventually in the 1970s, he had a bunch of ulcers and complications of surgery that affected him for the rest of his life.
It sounded like he kind of went Kurt Cobain because he had a bunch of ulcers, and so he had a bunch of belly pain, but he turned to drinking for it.
As you do.
Yeah, and then I guess they gave him a bunch of antacid and stuff. Like
a bunch of Tums.
Yeah, and that wasn't
Prescription Tums.
But that wasn't helping, so then he had to have surgery. And he had one, and then he was going in for a second one. And him being like a reader, he just read a bunch on his diagnosis and what the procedure was, and like read all these medical books. So much so
which will come back to haunt other people.
Yeah. So much so that when they were getting ready for the operation, and he was talking to the doctor, they actually got into an argument about what they should actually do because he thought he was smarter than the doctor, supposedly. But then after the surgery, it didn't make him feel better because there was a thing that kept coming up called dumping disease or dumping. It's some kind of... Have you heard this?
No, it sounds bad, though.
Yeah.
I hate when I get dumpings all the time.
Yeah. Well, it's like something where... They shortened his the first intestine.
Okay.
Is that the smaller intestine?
Large intestine.
Large intestine. They shortened it too much, and so like his stomach didn't have enough time to digest food. So then, partially digested food was going in there, and then it like creates a lot of pain. Yeah, and then it's kind of like having heartburn, but the other way.
Oh no.
Yeah. So yeah. That's when he started drinking a bunch.
Yeah.
And, well, like, because he was married at the time.
Yes. I have his first wife's name. So many notes.
I think there's Giselle, I believe her name is.
Is that his second wife? I think you're right. You're right. That's his first wife.
Yeah. No, Giselle is who he cheats on his wife with, and this is about the time.
Giselle is his second wife.
Yeah, because they say after he had all this pain and then he starts drinking to cope with it, he kind of switched, like, personalities.
Mm-hmm.
Because before, he wanted his wife to, like, cover up because he didn't want other guys knowing how hot she was, you know, like being kind of possessive about her.
Yeah.
But then after this, he was like, hey, show me some leg. Like, why are you wearing these long skirts all the time? And, like, going out and being more promiscuous because he was, like, a wood carver and would go to these trade shows and sell his carvings. But then when he was at these trade shows, he's going out to bars and picking up women and stuff because he was super charismatic. And for some reason, all the girls like this lumberjack beard guy, like guy with flannel and big beard. And you could take
a real. Have you ever seen Letterkenny?
Letterkenny?
Yeah.
No.
Oh, you should. It's really funny.
Okay.
And I mean, I obviously don't know what it's like to live in Canada, anywhere.
Right.
But that's a huge trope in the show, and it's funny because that is in real life.
Yeah, like the brawny man.
It's a trope for a reason.
Yeah. And that's when he met Giselle, and like started dating her, and like they spent a summer like going around to these trade shows and camping out. And she knew that he was married, but he was like, but she cheats on me and I have stomach cancer and woe is me. Like, it's all right that I'm doing this because she's worse.
Yeah.
I've got it so tough.
And maybe that's like a sign of the times, because now you can just look on somebody's Facebook and be like, that's a liar.
Yeah. Well, when you don't have the internet.
The internets.
Yeah, you can rob a bank and just go over to the next county and you're fine. But because he was in so much pain, and like obviously the antacids weren't working, and drinking is not a cure, he decided to let go and let God. And so he started going to church again because he kind of,
and he got really into it.
Yeah, because he started, you know, you read Revelations and all that, so you get all into the doomsday part of it, and then he joined up with a church called the Seventh-day Adventists, something like that.
Yeah.
Which their whole thing is like Jesus is going to come back, but like in the near future. So their preachings were a lot of like revelations and stuff like that. And so he's like, that's cool because yeah, I'm in pain. The world's going to end soon, you know. I'm into that.
Yeah.
Then my pain's going to be over. But Seventh-day Adventists are also like they have to have a clean body because when God does come, you're gonna be a soldier of God. So you need to have clean body, clean mind, you know.
Yeah, they don't do smoking cigarettes, no drinking.
Yeah,
no, even though it's legal by the law,
right?
They don't do it.
No, and I think they're vegetarians.
Yes, they don't make you be a vegetarian, but the general consensus is that vegetables are cleaner than meats.
Yeah,
yeah.
And so, of course, you stop drinking, you stop smoking, you start eating healthy, you're going to feel better.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So then he gets super jazzed about God, pretty much. But he also doesn't really have a job because he's just like a bum who carves stuff and sells it at fairs. So he's helping out with the church a lot, and they have him be a pamphlet guy to go door to door.
Yeah.
And since he had all this background as a kid, begging for money door to door, and he can do this, and he can do it on his own terms. He doesn't have to wear a stupid white beret and march.
Yeah.
Like, so he's like super adept at it. And then at the same time, he's talking to these people. He's getting them to come to like this not quit smoking seminar.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I can't remember if you had said while he was getting into the church, he was getting very much into the doomsday aspect. I can't remember what book that's in. Revelations, yes. He was really into Revelations and the Doomsday. So that was kind of the focus that he was taking whenever he would talk.
Yeah, preach to people.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then
so then the non-smoking sermons. And he would also have like pamphlets and stuff for his church.
Yeah, he would pass out because he had to pass out so many pamphlets, but then he was also like getting them to come to this quit smoking thing and then getting commissions on that. But then also he started charging double. Yeah. And he would keep half and then give the church, their little whatever.
Their cut.
Yeah. And it went to the point where he was just getting people to come to the seminar, and someone else would teach it.
Oh,
and then he became the teacher of the seminar and the guy that brought in the people. And yeah, he was super charismatic, and a lot of kids like home from college went to this seminar thing, thought he was cool, and then they started hanging out at his apartment with Giselle, like on the weekends. And he really liked being in control and like having these people like listen to his every word. And it was time they were about to move back. There's time to go back to college.
Yes.
And he was like, oh no, all these people that really adore me are going to leave. So you know what? Actually, wow, I had a dream last night, and God said that the world is going to end in
February.
Yeah, February. I think it was 79.
Yes.
February 15th, 1979.
That sounds about right.
Yeah. And so they were like, oh man, well, if the world's going to end, sure, we can quit college and move with you to another city. And
and while he's doing this, like obviously he's still in contact with the church.
Yes.
And they're seeing a lot of this type of stuff.
Yeah.
And they start to get worried that like they're starting to get worried that maybe his followers are following him as opposed to the church and God.
Right.
And that's generally a no-no.
Yeah. But they moved to this new city and opened it was like a cleansing clinic. And pretty much for like the quit smoking, or here's how to eat vegetables, and doing all these seminars and stuff. And he would go and recruit people or get people to come to his cleansing clinic by like cornering them at bars and stuff like that, or at restaurants, where he would just come up to people and just start talking to them about the end of the world or the cleansing, and you shouldn't eat that meat if you only eat the vegetables, because I don't know, green beans have more potassium per serving than your chicken does.
I think it'd be more like the pigs roll around and shit all day,
and you're putting that in your mouth.
Yeah, gross.
Yeah, I mean, the plants come from the dirt, but we wash them off, and yeah, they're not eating their own feces. And he convinced this guy. He ran into this guy. He was talking to this guy a bunch, and this guy's wife was in the hospital for leukemia.
Okay.
And he was talking to the guy, and he's like, I can heal her with this clean living cleansing clinic. And the guy's like, I don't know, come talk to my wife. So they go to the hospital, and he actually ends up getting into an argument with the doctor about how much medicine she's on and how much pills they're giving her.
Yeah.
Like, man, you don't need all these pills. They're trying to kill you. They're trying to upsell you, man. Come to my hippie clinic. I got the cure. And so he made it, it seems he's pretty charismatic. Yeah, let's go with him.
Yeah.
He's obviously, he shut that doctor down. And then they go there, and he's like, here's some grape juice. Like, and yeah, grape juice didn't cure her leukemia. And she ended up dying.
Oh, damn.
In his care, quote unquote.
Yeah.
And so, obviously, that was a big deal. They didn't find him guilty for anything, like neglect or anything, because it was their own free will that she went there.
Yeah.
But that's kind of when the church was like, hey, somebody died under your watch. Like, that's not cool.
Yeah.
And I guess he tried to, like, appease the church by getting married to Giselle. And she's like, yeah, cool, because you have all these ladies hanging around you, and you're not really paying me attention, but you want to get married? Sure. And then the day of the wedding, on the way back from the wedding, he made her sit in the back of the truck and then sat in the middle, like between two of the other ladies.
Oh, damn.
And she just, like, I guess the story is in her memoirs or anything, she cried the whole way back, and it was like a 5-hour car trip.
Damn, that's a long time.
Yeah, because he wanted to get married at the church to show the people at the church that, hey, see, all these other girls, this is my concubine. I'm getting married to just one girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, but the church ended up excommunicating them anyway.
Yep.
Being like, get out of here. Like, you're crazy, man. And that's when they moved again, because you can't hang around in a town where everybody knows that a lady died under your care, because they're going to start looking at you a little harder and seeing actually what's going on there.
And he got excommunicated from the church, but his followers weren't following the church. They were just following
stayed with him.
Yeah.
And by then, I think he had like 13 people with him, and they drove around until they found, I guess, they just found a spot. They're like, here's a spot in the middle of the woods, and they just started building cabins and stuff. That confuses me. Unless in Canada, you can just go into the woods and build something, and you're like, I live here now.
Yeah. Well, and who knows about that time? You know,
Like in the 70s, 60s,
I
60s,
guess
70s.
That seems like every little plot should have been picked up.
Yeah. But
Because it happens again later as well.
Yeah. Because this is when they move next to this like hill or a mountain, and they called it Faith Mountain, I believe.
Yeah, it's something like that. The Eternal Mountain?
The Eternal Mountain.
Yeah.
Yeah, and he's like, this is where we're going to hold out from Doomsday. And
In Pespibiak? Quebec.
Yeah, and this is one of the steps, because if you listen to any other podcast about this, they talk about the psychology and how it works to isolate people to bring them into your cult.
Yeah. Yeah, because he would, like, tell them that their family doesn't love them. And
Yeah, you can't, because they started saying themselves as the pure ones, and the ones that knew what's going on, and everybody else were like evil, or like the monsters, or I think they even coined the Walking Dead.
Whoa.
Like out there, that's the land of the Walking Dead. Yeah. We are alive in here, just living our lives how we should, off the land and free. Like, is there anything wrong with love, Matt?
No.
Exactly. And they started selling bread and produce on the road.
Yeah.
Like those little shacks, like a farmer's market kind of deal. But of course, Roch.
And now, am I wrong in that when they settled down here, they started calling themselves the Holy Moses Mountain Family?
Maybe, because he did change his name to Moses.
Yeah, because his followers called him pretty much everything but Roch.
Yeah, they called him like
Papa.
Papi. Yeah, because Giselle was Mama and he was Papa.
And then and also Moses.
Yeah.
And then he started renaming his followers.
Yeah.
And it was almost like every time I heard it, it was like he just like opened a Hebrew like book and was just like, you're this one now.
Yeah. Ezriella or whatever.
Yeah. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you juxtapose that, because he started calling himself Moses, and they're like driving around looking for a place to set up for the Doomsday, so they're looking for the Promised Land, and Moses led the Jews out of Egypt to find their Promised Land. Yeah, so he's like kind of got a complex about him.
You can call me Moses now.
Yeah. That's that Primus song, Amos Moses.
I don't listen to that Primus.
Oh, because he lives in the bayou, hunts himself alligators, knock him in the head with a stump.
I don't know that.
You don't know that one?
I really only know Mr. Crinkle, and that's because I like the video.
Oh, okay. But yeah, and so he doesn't work because he's a prophet. He's got to go like do the sauna and commune with God while everybody else is building cabins and working, their gardens and stuff like that, baking bread. Mm-hmm. And he was like up on this. Would you say Faith? Not Faith
the
Hill.
Eternal Hill.
The Eternal Hill.
Faith Hill.
And he was like looking down, and everybody's like hard at work, and he's like, "They look like ants, man. Oh, that's my anthill kids." Yeah. And so then that's what they named their bakery.
Okay. Yes.
Yeah. So like on the side of their like hippie van, it's at Anthill Kids because that's the bread. They're like, we're the Anthill Kids. Like,
I don't know if you want to be buying bread from a bug
people
colony. Bug people.
Well, you go to the farmer's market and you get their business card, and it's like Ant Hill's Bakery. And you're like, oh, okay, whatever.
You guys all stink.
Yeah. When's the last time you had a shower?
This bread is good, though.
Yes. It's not funky bread, is it?
Yeah, it's special bread.
Yeah. But this was also because when they were out there in the middle of nowhere, Gisette was like, "Hey, Roch."
Giselle.
Sure. His wife.
Yeah.
Mama or whatever they called her. He was like, there's a lot of ladies out here. They're probably going to get pretty lonely. Kind of meaning like maybe we should get more dudes in here. Because she's still thinking she's number one.
Yeah.
Even though she's friendly with all these other ladies. And and she still wants to be the just me at this time. And he's
Natural.
and he's like, oh, they're gonna be lonely. Well, you know what? Everybody can have sex with me. They won't be lonely anymore. You know what? It's not even weird. I'll marry him. It won't be weird. Of course, you have sex with your husband.
Yeah, because it did sound like some of these other women, and there were other guys, were married.
Yeah,
and he dissolved like all the marriages.
Well, like there was the two people. There was like a husband and wife. And the husband really liked Roch, and they were the ones that sold their shit. Jacques, yeah. And he liked Roch, and his wife just went along with it because she loved her husband. And they were the ones that like
ladies, don't ever follow your husband,
especially if he's doing something stupid.
He's gonna get you in trouble.
Yeah, if he's like, we're gonna sell the house and we're gonna use the money to open a cleansing clinic for another guy. Like but he's really cool and he'll talk to us a lot. So let's just do that. She's like, whatever. So their marriage, he never dissolved, and he never.
And that was his like right hand man. So he was like,
yeah, and that was the one
cool,
girl that he didn't care. He didn't touch, pretty much.
Wow.
Well, I mean, yeah, but yeah, he had a couple of male followers, and then like made him get married to some of the girls. But then when he was like, hey, everybody can have sex with me, then he's like, you guys aren't married anymore. They're married to me. Because yeah, and then everything kind of started to get weird because then he had kids with these ladies,
and then like right around in this time, Jamestown happened.
I think so, yeah.
And so that was like the biggest cult like on the news for
well, it was the biggest mass suicide,
yeah. And so like that's what everybody thought cults did now, which wasn't far from the truth in this situation.
Correct. And in most cults,
and so right around this time, Terrio,
that's his last name,
Roch Terrio, and another cult leader were arrested. It's like, how many cults were going on? And
well, I think it was him and Giselle.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, like they both got brought in.
Oh, okay. I thought it was like from another cult. But they got arrested and then psychiatrically evaluated.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know if they got arrested, but they got brought in.
Yeah.
To be like, you're out there being weird.
Detained?
We need to check you out.
Yeah. And then they both passed.
Yeah.
And were released.
Yeah. And in fact, his psychiatrist was like, why are we even messing with these people? Like,
yeah, they're good.
They're good. They're super great people. Like, they're not, let them go. It's fine. But it turns out that they weren't good people because by this time, because this is over years, like we're just condensing it.
Yeah, and I think I cut you off. You were talking about he like was impregnating these other women.
Yeah, and so he had a couple kids with these other ladies, and he would say that those kids are the real kids, and then the kids that they brought in from other marriages, those were just animals. They were nothing. They were like dirt.
Up. And he would have them sometimes sleep away from their mother, even outside or in a shed on the property.
And they even said, like, while they were building the cabins and stuff, once they got one up, there wasn't enough room, so he would just make everybody sleep outside.
Yeah.
Because he'd be like, you and you in the cabin, and then everybody else just had to fend for themselves.
Yeah.
In Canada.
Yeah.
In the wintertime.
Yeah, it could be southern Canada, and it's still going to be cold all the time.
Yes, all the time. And during one of these times, there was a newborn baby, and they just put him in a wheelbarrow. Which, if everybody's cold and there's no shelter, wouldn't you think still with mom would be the better idea?
You would think.
Yeah, but then the kid obviously passes away. Like either from the cold or the real whatever is sudden infant death syndrome.
Oh yeah,
like SIDS.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what the coroner said. So they didn't really.
There was no reason for the doctor to call about mistreatment or whatever.
Yeah, because I guess someone checked in on him and somebody said that it was in a wheelbarrow at night and then this is where it's like, because he wouldn't stop crying or
also,
something like that.
If a baby's an animal, you'd think you'd have better uses for your wheelbarrow.
Oh.
Yeah, you got to move some rock or something.
Something, yeah. But so then they started looking into him, and then so they kind of had their eyes on him, and then when they brought, okay. So all that happened, but then when they brought him in to do the psychiatric evaluation, and because cults were in the news at the time, he actually got interviewed by a newspaper, and he was so charismatic that the newspaper was like, this where the Holy Moses Hill or whatever came from, because they're like, what is going on up at the commune? Let's do a piece on it. And then he was so charismatic that they're like, he's just a guy who wants to live off the land, and there's nothing wrong with peace and love, and they're not bothering us, so we should just leave them alone up there on Holy Moses Hill.
Yeah.
And so like this guy saw it, and he was in a hospital, like in a psychiatric hospital.
Okay.
And he went out to live with them, but they could tell he was off. So they're like, okay, but you have to stay in the shed. And they gave him like beer and like a wood burning stove, so it wasn't just cold out there. But they're like, we have to keep an eye on you because we don't know you.
Yeah.
And you're a little off. But because those other kids were just like dogs and like dirt, they're like, hey, watch these kids that we're not paying attention to.
Yeah.
You can be with the kids because you're mentally at their age too, right? And I guess they were having a party at the house because his kids from his first marriage were coming to visit, because he was just in the news. It seems like a good guy. You want to go for a summer, live out in the woods with your dad? Yeah. And then so they're having a celebration because these kids are coming to live with them. And during that, like, this baby was crying at night.
Yes.
And this guy didn't know what to do, kind of thing.
Yeah.
And instead of like, he like acted in anger and I guess beat the kid to get him to shut up.
So there was a member, Maurice, and she had a 6-month-old child, which I couldn't figure out if this was or was not Roch's.
Oh yeah.
Because if it's 6 months, although that'd be a year, so maybe it wasn't his. But the baby wouldn't stop crying, so Roch made the mother strip the child naked and roll it around in the snow until it was blue.
Well, see, I don't think that's one of those that I've heard different. Like when they left the kid in the wheelbarrow.
Yeah,
I think that might be the story. That's like they made him roll him around in the snow, kind of thing. Because that's also like they're staying outside because you can't be in the cabin. But they're like, oh, he punishes them by keeping them outside, and it's like, both are bad what he's doing, but.
And then that Maurice, I believe, is the wife of Jacques.
Oh, so it wasn't because Jacques.
Yeah,
Maurice, they were the untouchable couple.
Yeah,
like he was not fucking or having sex with her. But so this guy, if you ever seen I Am Sam in the beginning, where he's just got the baby crying, he's running around his apartment, doesn't know what to do, and the neighbor has to tell him what to do. If this is that situation, but instead of like going the caring route, you're more like go the violent route because you're just frustrated. Yeah, and you shake the baby. You can't shake the baby,
or kick. You can't kick the baby.
You can't kick the baby either. And so the next day they're like, "What the hell happened to this kid?" And they're like, "Well, shit." And then it's like, nether regions were swollen, and the kid wasn't going to the bathroom. So Roch, reading all these medical books that he's got, he's like, "Oh, we have to open it up to get some flow, let the pee out." And of course he doesn't know what he's doing. He just doesn't sanitize his hands. They say they had ethanol to like sterilize stuff, but I've also heard that they kind of try to use the ethanol to anesthetize the baby, so they like made it drink liquor pretty much,
and give it as like anesthesia.
Yeah, anesthetize. That's a fun word. And then he did this, and then in the two versions I've heard is they gave him too much anesthesia and the baby died that way, or it's member got infected and he kind of bled out because they didn't know what they were doing when they were letting the pee out. Yeah, but either way the kid passes away. And they don't tell anybody, they just bury the kid. And the guy that did this to the kid, they're like, okay, we get it. You didn't know what you were doing. It's an accident. But then I guess like a month later, Roch, Terrio gets drunk and is like, actually, I'm really pissed at this guy. Let's have a trial. And so they have a mock trial to
This
see.
is Guy Fieri.
Guy Fieri. Yeah. He's on trial. And they actually came to the conclusion that he was not guilty, is what I heard. But then Roch was like...
From what I heard, it was like some of the other members were the jury and Roch was the judge.
Oh, okay.
So I think it was like no matter what the jury said, Roch was just going to be like, yeah, he's guilty.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think it was like they found him not guilty, but then they brought in the special kids to be like, oh, let's have them vote too. And then that's when it got like he was found guilty.
Yeah.
And I don't know who suggested it, if Roch came up on his own, but they were like, hey, well, so this guy isn't so violent and maybe this will fix his migraines. Let's make him a eunuch.
Castrated him with a razor blade.
Yeah, they cut off his balls. And I guess he was fine, but well, not fine, but
he survived.
He survived, yeah. And but Roch used this guy as his whipping boy.
Yeah,
much.
he would just get drunk and he tied him to a tree and just would beat him until it was black and blue. And
yeah, he would tell other members to be like they're sitting around the fire and they're like, hey, here's a knife, go stab him. And they'd be like, okay. And then he'd be like, nope. After this guy's like scared to death and like, no, don't do it, Julie. And he's like, ha ha ha, look at that guy, it's not funny. So yeah, after being abused mentally and physically, he runs away.
Yeah. And
he ends up, I'm guessing in my head, this is my narrative for the story that I'm making up. Like in my head, I'm like, I see him at a bar getting drunk and they're like, hey buddy, where are you from? You look rough. And he's like, oh, are you up here? And oh, why aren't you up there? Aren't they cool? No, they cut my balls off and their kid died. And they're like, wait, what? And so yeah, they go to the authorities and then they go up there to check out what's going on and then see all the kids. And by this time, like the dirt kids, they're not treated well because he would like hold them over a fire and make their mom beg and tell them to stop. They said that he would nail them to a tree,
like by their clothes.
Okay,
is what I kind of heard.
All right, yeah, but then so they're restrained and then have the other kids pitch rocks at them.
Yeah, stone them.
Yeah, and this was also when he started like he would do these long sermons. Like they would work all day long, and then he'd want to hold court and have these long sermons. And when people are like trying to like nodding off because he's been doing this for 3 hours, we worked all day. Can we just go to bed? And he would whack them with like a club to get them to wake up, start cracking them on the head. And because like right after this kid passed away and he's married all these chicks, Giselle, mama, was like, I'm going to go live with my dad. This is crazy. And I want to leave. And he punched her in the face and locked her in the room for 2 days.
Damn.
And that was pretty much when he's like, oh, and he got away with it. So then he's like, oh, shit, I can do whatever I want. And mostly when he was drunk, he would abuse people. Like they said he would like burn them with blowtorches and stuff.
Yeah.
Like, and that's
and he would have like gladiator tournaments. Like he would have a bunch of women and they would all sleep together. And then when he was done and tired, he would when he was done and tired, he would like make them either do stuff to each other or like even fight each other to see who was the more pure person, because like, you know, God would give you the strength to defeat your foes or whatever,
right? So and punching each other and shit.
And then he would even have like men come in to fight, and like he would have men fight women, but men weren't allowed to hit the women like at all. Yeah. So the women would just be beating the shit out of the guys, and they like couldn't do anything. Yeah. And it all certainly seemed for his enjoyment.
Yeah, because so they get investigated, and they come in, and the kids are all malnourished, and there's no formal education. I guess they did kind of have school, but they kind of stopped after a while because they got other stuff to do.
And I would imagine that like Roch was like, yeah, I'll teach at school because I'm like the best at it.
Yeah, I'm so smart.
And then he gets tired of it and passes it on to somebody else. Then he gets tired of that guy doing it. And so he's like, you actually need to build more things. So
yeah. So the kids they come in and they actually take all the kids away.
yes.
And that he ends up getting sentenced to 2 years
Yes.
in prison
Mm-hmm.
because of the neglect and everything. And so the cult moves into the city where his prison is. Like they rent out a couple of apartments. Yeah, to be close to him, and they go visit him every day. They write letters to him. Supposedly, in one story I heard, he had a room with a window, and they found out which window he had, and they would go outside and like dance for him in the parking lot. That's what I heard.
Yeah.
Until like the guards realized that he was getting a sexy show, and
Yeah.
they moved him so he didn't have a window. But he was also getting conjugal visits.
Conjugals.
Because he got 4 of the ladies pregnant
Yeah,
while he was in prison.
If you ever go to jail, you got to get some conjugals, baby.
Conjugal. I don't know if they do that anymore.
Yeah, who knows?
Maybe if you were like married or something.
I think that's generally the term. But like 4 women married to all of them, and you know maybe they weren't keeping records or something.
Yeah.
No, this is my wife. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, this is my wife. Yeah.
This one's my wife too. Yeah. Can I get them both at the same time? No, just one. No, just one. It's fine.
I'll figure out, I guess.
Yeah. But then when they get out, they move again to their final resting spot.
Mm-hmm.
And I wanted to call it, it's like ash forest or black forest or something like that.
It was some sort of river.
Maybe
Burnt River?
Burnt River. That's it. And now that there's no kids and it's just adults, and he's been cooped up, he goes buck wild.
Yeah.
Because this is when, because he's like a dangerous person. Like if you're at a party with somebody and they're like, oh, it's this blowtorch, and then they burn you with it, you'd be like, no, dude, you're not cool. But they're like, oh, haha, let me get the purity off of you.
Yeah.
They're like,
well, and there are, I think, elements to that are normal. Like when you're in high school and you're doing that pinch to the back of the arm that like just hurts like holy shit.
yeah,
like way more than a regular pinch, or like sack tapping.
Oh,
you know,
yeah.
and I've personally never been a big fan of it.
no,
but
yeah, I know
that's what all the popular guys were always
Or like,
trying to grab each other's
like a Charlie
ding-dongs.
horse.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah,
Or maybe a wet willy. I don't know. But there's a certain type of pain that maybe you inflict to your friends that this guy was obviously just going way crazy with it.
yeah, because the Jacques and what's her name,
Maurice
is like, I want to leave. I don't like this. I'm only here for you. He's getting crazy. He's burning people. Like we're punching each other in the head for his enjoyment. I'm not really enjoy this. I want to leave. And Roch was like, no, you can't. And you know what? Because she said she wanted to run away, why don't you cut off one of her toes so she can't run away?
Yeah.
Yeah, kind of thing. But no, it was like a punishment. And he was like, I'm not going to. And he's like, so Roch took the thing and he's like, well, I'll cut off all of them then. And he's like, no, I'll do it. And cut off his wife's pinky toe with an axe.
Yeah.
And then they cauterized the wound, and she survived.
Mm-hmm.
And he's all like, I'm a medical science guy.
Mm-hmm.
You know what? That worked. And then so he would like, then he cut off another person's finger to like get the impurity out.
Oh, damn.
And then he cauterized that, and he's like, oh, I'm a medical genius. Like, look, these people are surviving, and he thinks he has the power to like heal people,
remove.
Yeah, because supposedly the lady who died at their clinic, he went in there when she was dead and was like, I gave her the kiss of life. But then God came and said, no, I want her. And so then she died again and went to heaven. And that's like
crazy.
Yeah, and so people are like, oh, he can resurrect people. He can heal wounds. Look, he cut off her toe and that lady's finger. He can do miracles. And like, they would get toothaches, obviously, if you're living out in the woods and you're not really brushing your teeth. And so then he would just yank the tooth for them. Mm-hmm. And a tooth, it hurts a lot, but you just pull them out and then it heals. Like,
Kinda.
you're not gonna bleed out from getting your tooth pulled
Yeah.
out. It's gonna hurt like hell, but yeah. So he's like pulled a couple of rotten teeth. They survived too, and there was a girl.
Is this with teeth?
Well, one girl, he pulled out a bunch of teeth,
Yeah.
and I think there was some other thing that was wrong with her, but they ended up like,
So one member, Gabrielle, ended up saying that one of her teeth was hurting.
yeah,
And again, Roch took the pliers and pulled out 8 teeth.
yeah, and I think they were gonna like, he had this idea to like inject her with something to kill the pain, like give like a spinal tap.
Oh,
For some reason, but he broke the needle in her spine.
Oh.
And was kind of like, oops, I
You'll be
guess
fine.
we'll do it without. Yeah.
And then she again complained this time about a stiff finger, which I'm like, I wonder what
maybe
that is.
this is the lady that he cut her finger off.
No, this one, when she complained about her stiff finger, they were at like the kitchen table,
Yeah.
and he just put his hunting knife through her hand and into the table and left her there.
Yeah.
And she was screaming in pain, and but she didn't want to pass out. And I think maybe you're thinking of the gal who had stomach issues.
No, that was a different one. Yeah, I know the stomach issue one, but the girl, she went through like an ordeal. Like he gave her homemade surgery,
Yeah.
and then the stomach pain girl happened. So
I thought that was the person that got the surgery.
what, stomach pain girl?
Yeah.
Yeah, she's
Yeah.
the one that got the surgery.
Okay, yeah.
But I mean, there was like another girl that like he stabbed, he pulled out her teeth, and it always seems like he's doing these experiments.
Yeah, this
on her.
one. And, well, he pins her hand to the kitchen table with the hunting knife through the hand, and then she's still awake, and he comes back like hours later, and he lets her go
Yeah.
by cutting her arm off between the elbow and the shoulder.
Oh, okay. Because see, this is where it all gets like conflated or mixed up. Because yeah, he pins her hand and he lets her go, and so she's like, what the what, and so she's like kind of like I should get out of here. I need to see an actual doctor, shit like that. But while she's contemplating this, this other lady, Solange, yeah,
Solange Boyard?
yeah, Solange.
I think Solange happened before at least the hand pinning.
Well, I think it was like the hand pinning. Solange happened. This lady.
I think it was the teeth, then Solange.
Okay, but anyway, because after Solange, she runs away, but then comes back because she gets like halfway there and then decides to come back.
From what I heard, she got out into a woman's health clinic, and one of the other members came to go see her.
Yeah.
And Roch had just like cut off the tip of his ding dong.
Okay.
But he still like left and to get Gabrielle. No, not Gabrielle. It started with an M. Maurice.
Yeah.
And he was like, hey, he's sorry. This is all for all our good, and like talked her into coming back.
Oh, okay.
And when she came back, this was like months later from what I had heard, and then he had members of the cult hold her down, and he heated up like a big hunk of metal, something off a car, like a tie rod or something.
Yeah.
And cauterized her wound. But it would have been months later.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying. I think when she came back, that's when he pinned her and then chopped her arm, and then cauterized the wound. Like it was all in the same spot.
Yeah.
And then
I don't know.
Cauterized or something.
I wouldn't
But
there, I guess.
then that's when. But
Into the weeds. We go.
well, because there's so much and that he did.
Yeah.
That was super gruesome. Like they say, like he made him sit naked on a lit stove.
Oh.
But that's also one of the things where you're looking for all this proof that this guy's a monster. Maybe you're naked, you just got done with one of your orgies, and you go to sit down and you don't realize the stove's hot and you burn your ass.
Yeah.
And you're like, shit, I burnt my ass there. Oh, he made me sit on it. Like, and it's also one of those things where you could have maybe, but they're like, man, why are you standing up? There's no place to sit. Sit on the stove.
Sit on the stove.
Sit on the stove. Yeah, I don't know. But, yeah, so the Solange, okay. She was complaining of a stomach issue.
Mm-hmm.
And,
Roch had read so much about stomach issues.
yeah, he's had his own stomach issues.
Yeah.
And so this is where I would do the narrative to fit, or like weave the story to fit my narrative.
Okay.
He's been through it, so he's probably like, "Oh, does your stomach hurt like this?" And he punches her in the stomach. And she's like, "Oh yes, lots of pain." And he's like, "All right, you know what they did to me? They stuck a tube up my butt and gave me an enema." And so he sticks a tube up her butt and gives her an enema with like molasses and
oil and
yeah,
ethanol or something,
and like olive oil, yeah. And then that doesn't work, and she's still in pain. So he's like, "Oh yeah, they put tubes down my throat." So he puts tubes down her throat, and he's like, "It was helping me breathe." So then he's like, "Hey, blow in that tube." So he's having people blow into the tube that he stuck down into her stomach. And then they're like, "Oh no, there's also a sucking motion." So they blow, so they're like blowing and sucking into her stomach, which is fucking weird.
Yeah.
So they pull that out. She's still in pain. He's like, "Oh, they cut me open and they took out part of my intestine." So he cuts her open, no anesthetic, no nothing. Goes with his grubby bare hands, moves her shit around until he finds a piece of intestine, and then cuts it off.
And from what it sounded like, this was all in front of the other members.
Yeah, and people are probably like holding her hands and feet.
Yeah. You'd have to, I suppose.
Yeah, because you're doing it, your raw dog in her stomach.
Oh, damn.
And then he's just like, he turns to Ma, Gisette, the one that still has both her hands, and is like, and he's like, "Oh, you're good at sewing, sew her up." And so she had to like sew her intestines back together and then her stomach up. And lo and behold, her stomach acid leaked into her abdomen. Plus, she was kind of bleeding out.
Yeah.
So she just like had to deal with her body eating itself from the inside out for like 12 hours and then finally died. Yeah. And
they just like, after they performed the surgery, they just like left her wherever she was.
Yeah.
And like crudely stitched her up or whatever and just left her.
Yeah, so she was just hanging out on the kitchen table in pain until she died. And then they buried her. But then Roch started having these dreams about how Adam made Eve with his rib. Mm-hmm. And so then he was like, well, then a man has the spirit of woman inside of him. So if I give this corpse my essence, that would bring her back to life. Mm-hmm. That sounds really cool. But first, I think we have to take her fallopian tubes out, her uterus, because that's where life is born from. So I need to have that. And then I gotta go directly to where the soul is, the brain. So I'm gonna cut a hole in her brain, hold on to her uterus, and then expel my essence into her brain cavity.
Wow, that was very well put.
And then he's like waiting, and he's like, "Well, Jacques, come over here and expel your man essence into her brain too." And then, "Hey, other guy, the other guy that's here, you too." And then it's like, "It didn't work." And he's like, "Well, fuck, I'm gonna take my rib back then." And he takes one of her ribs, and like they said, he made it into a necklace.
That's what I had heard too.
So I don't know if he like chopped it up and then like made it like, into like beads, or if he just hung a rib bone off.
Got a bunch of meat on it still.
Yeah. And then they reburied her, or they cremated her after that.
Okay.
And then that is when the lady he chopped the hand off is like, okay, he's killing people. He just killed her. Like, we could have took her to the doctor. So I'm getting out of here for real this time. And that's when she goes and cooperates with the police to be like, he fucking killed somebody out there. Plus, he's like this neglect and abuse. Like, look what he did to me. He cut my nipples off. Like, I don't have a fucking right arm anymore. My teeth are missing. I have a needle in my spine. Like, can you go stop this guy? And when they go to get him, they hoofed it, but they only like ran into the woods, like maybe a mile or something, and then set up like a camouflage hut, and they were hunkered down there for like 7 days.
Yeah,
until the cops finally found them.
Well, I had heard 2 weeks,
2 weeks. Okay.
But I mean, really, either way, because when she left and came back, everybody from the cult had vanished.
Yeah.
And from what it sounded like, Roch only left with a few members, Nicole, Chantel, and Jacques. And then everybody else, it sounded like, took off.
Just scattered.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cheese it. It's the cops.
Yeah, but also, like, okay, we all kind of... He's crazy. Like, because I guess then he took the uterus and put it in a jar with olive oil.
Okay.
And then... Not to get crude, this is why we gave you those.
This is
trigger
the part where
stuff.
you're not trying to get crude.
Yeah, but he would either like expel himself into the jar, like repeatedly, like this was his kink, or he used the oil that was in the jar to
love make.
Yeah, himself.
Love make himself.
Yeah. So, but either way, I think this was his like weird necrophilic jerk jar. But yeah, so then of course the rest of the cult is like, okay, this is weird.
This is too far.
This is weird. This is the point. So when he left with
we don't believe God is telling you to do this.
Yes. So you're leaving. We're leaving too. We're not gonna hang out here. We're gone. I'm gonna go back to my mom's house.
I got my final semester to make up.
Yeah, and at first they were, but even with all that, when the cops interviewed him, everybody kept their mouth shut. Like, we didn't see anything. And they're like, okay, but the one lady that came forward, they can get him with this abuse and the torture and all that. So they're going to give him 12 years. But a psychiatrist talks to him, and the psychiatrist is like, why are you even doing this trial? You should let him go. He's just a guy trying to live his life. Like, somehow bamboozled the psychiatrist.
Yeah.
And of course they're like, we're not gonna let him go. And he's like, come on. And the psychiatrist
come on,
and along with Roch being charismatic and like wooing
finger
gunning and shit. Yeah, and they're like, okay, well, instead of 12 years, how about 10? So they actually like not whack 2 years off just by being a charismatic person, which is weird. But then somebody ended up coming forward about
Giselle
came
forward about
what he did.
Yeah, to the other person,
Solange. Yeah, and then when they went out there and started poking around and found her remains, they were like, oh, okay. So he ended up getting life in prison, and they still, like, some of them moved close to him, and they were pen pals and stuff.
Yeah.
And they actually had to cut off. There was like 2 times where they had to cut him off because he was like writing poetry and painting. Because by this time, like, this is recent, like in the early 90s.
Yeah.
Early 2000s, late 90s. He started selling stuff on murder.com. And then they found out that he was making money, and they're like, you can't make money on this, like, you weirdos.
Yeah. 1993.
Okay, 93.
Is when I saw that he was transferred prisons.
Okay. And then he was also still writing to his people and being like, make sure you pray.
Make sure you cut somebody's finger off today.
Yeah, go over to Janet and punch her in the head for me. Like, and then the prison saw that he was still being controlling.
Yeah.
So then they took his privileges away. Like, you can't write those people. Like, you can only write family members and not wives, like, kind of thing. And then yeah, I guess he's still, like, in prison, was, like, preaching his thing. And I think
he, like, got a couple more therapists from the prison, like, kind of on his side.
Yeah, and he even, like, they didn't say which gender the officer was.
Okay.
But he even seduced a prison guard.
Damn.
And they had to move the guard because he was getting loving from Roch. So it was either him or, I don't know, they didn't say, but it said he seduced a prison guard and was getting nookie in there. And then, yeah, he was still preaching his doomsday thing. And then, I'm guessing to try to look hard, or, like, in prison, he was telling all the things that he did.
Yeah.
Like, I chopped a girl's toe off, or I know how to do surgery. I did the surgery on this lady. And the guy got so tired of just hearing his whack job nonsense, his cellmate, that he ended up stabbing him.
Yeah. Matthew Gerard McDonald.
Yeah.
In 2011.
Yeah.
February 23rd, 2011. Maybe that was when Jesus came back.
Oh, maybe.
got a little repention.
Yeah.
Stabbed Roch stabbed Roch to death with a shiv in their cell. McDonald would shortly after approach the guards, saying, "That piece of shit is downrange. Here's the knife. I've sliced him up."
Yeah. So he's like, fuck
That's
that
hard.
guy. But that's cool because for all this torture you get, that's karma.
Yeah. Wonder what that guy was in for.
I don't know, but he should be let go.
Well, let's not speak so soon.
He'll be like, time served. There's your
Time served.
Yeah.
Out on good behavior.
Yeah. Thanks for taking care of that guy for us. Yeah, and some of them still, it's one of those things where it's like, yeah, I know he did all that, but there was this one time we went fishing and he was my best buddy, like, but also this one is so egregious that I think it also attracts a lot of people that want to romanticize it, but like in a way that like how gruesome it is or how much of a monster he was. And so it's almost one of those things where it's like I don't know if there's a word for it, but you're just like, I mean, we're kind of doing it, glomming on to the thing to like, I don't know, like a shock value.
Yeah, but also like I think you kind of got to talk about this stuff because obviously I think 95% of people that are put in this position would see that it's bad and leave.
Yeah, but
you got to talk about it to be like this kind of stuff, and also even lesser, traumas are out there.
Yeah,
to be able to identify them.
Yeah, but I do believe it's what's the thing, like a frog in a pot of water?
Oh yeah,
where
you just turn it up
slowly,
yeah,
until it's boiling, and the frog doesn't realize it's dead.
Yeah, I can understand that. I mean, there's been a lot of people in pretty toxic and abusive relationships. So. Yeah,
because I mean, we talked about everything, but it started in the 70s, and he went to jail in the 90s.
Yeah.
So it was like a 15, 20-year period.
Yeah.
So if
he could have been a real good guy in between all of that.
Yeah, well, they say...
we got to fit it into an hour podcast.
Yeah, well, it's like the Ike and Tina thing, where it's like, punch in the face, but then, hey, look at this mink coat I bought you. I'm sorry about yesterday, baby. I'll change. And then you go out to eat.
I'm not sure about that accent.
Oh, I'm Italian. Hey, baby, it's okay. And then you take them out and you have a fancy dinner, and then life's good for a week because you go to Cancun.
Yeah.
But also, like, this guy at work, he's a little religious, but he's all right. And then like you hang out over a year, maybe you went and got a couple drinks with him. You kind of talk to him. You've been to a picnic. You kind of know some of the people that he knows. And then all of a sudden, like, oh shit, I got shit canned. My car broke. Fuck, I'm really in bad times. And this guy comes up and he's like, "Hey man, I heard you got the bad times. We live out in these woods here. You can stay for free as long as you want, no pressure. All we say is, kind of respect our boundaries and be cool, man. Because we're just free love. It's all free love out here. So, but if you want to come out, you want to hang out, as long as you want, like, until you get back on your feet, you come on out." Maybe we can run the tractor. Can you fix that old tractor for us? And then next thing you know,
you're really painting a picture in my head. I'm like, I could fall for this.
Yeah, and then it's a little weird at first because they pray every morning, but
he sleeps with everybody,
or they have like sing-alongs or something.
Yeah,
and you notice he's kind of friendly to the girls, but what if the girls are also kind of friendly to you?
Yeah,
what if you're getting honeypotted? And then a month turns into a year, and then all this, he smacks somebody, and you're like, well, she did technically drop the grapes, and we need those grapes to sell, so maybe a little backhand. I wouldn't do it, but whatever.
Or like maybe you say something, and you're like, hey, dude, that was a little heavy-handed.
Yeah.
And like, oh, I just got my temper just sometimes gets the better of me.
Gets the better of me.
I just got to make sure I pray extra hard today.
Yeah, I got to be more pure.
We're all just human, buddy.
Yeah,
we all make mistakes.
Exactly. See,
it's working.
It does work. Yeah, and especially if you're super charismatic and like a likable guy.
Yeah,
Yeah, because
And there's no social media. There's no, maybe they probably didn't have telephones on the compound.
yeah,
There's no contact with the outside world. All you now know is that inside world. And be like, he backhanded the gal for, dropping the grave seat again.
yeah. But also when they made their last move,
Or like, somebody's going to be praying extra hard tonight. I saw you hit her.
yeah, or yeah. But when they made their last move, they also moved into an English-speaking community, and they're all French-speaking from French Canada. And so then they're even more isolated because they can't talk to anybody except each other. And they're not even really allowed to talk to each other because when Roch's not around, he doesn't know what you're saying. So hey, we can't really talk about that. But,
Yeah.
Yeah,
if Roch heard me saying that I don't like him when he hits Brenda, then, he'll hit me.
Yeah, and no, I'm not.
Or maybe he'll send me out. And,
I can't.
I don't have a job.
Yeah, and
I don't have anywhere
amongst
to
the
go.
Walking Dead, out of there in the dead, the evil society.
Yeah.
I don't want to live with Satan, man. I want to live in here with Moses.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Papa Moses, baby. Wow, you really painted that brutal picture well, buddy.
Oh, you're welcome. That's what happens when you catch me on a Saturday morning.
Got all the rest you needed and came in and fucking kicked ass, Dave.
Oh, thanks, Matt. And you're going to chop it up and make it pristine. You're going to shine this turd.
I'm going to do
some turd
two things to it.
Two things to it. I'm going to save it and print it. Or whatever.
Put on some yeehaws.
Yeehaw.
Thanks, everybody, for listening. And I hope you guys are doing well out there. Check out stickers on our thing.
Or if you see a sticker around town in the wild, take a picture of it, put it on our Facebook group.
Oh, that'd be cool. I know Davey's always putting stickers around now. He's got his own stockpile.
I even just printed. I got my own.
Damn, boy.
So they're out there.
He's flush.
Yeah.
But hey, throw us a line. Maybe there's something you want us to do and
to talk about.
Yes, an episode.
Yeah, because you can't just be like, you know what? I want you guys to fuck off. I mean, if you can send that too. I mean, that's fine. Any opinion is an opinion.
It is one.
Yes.
But you make sure, if nothing else, be good to yourselves.
Yes, and remember, always keep your head on a swivel.